Hello, hello, hello. Good morning and welcome to the Big Picture. I am Grant McGaw and have my colleague here, Chris Principe. And today we're talking about consumer payments in 2026. And I want to be clear right up front. This is not a conversation about tap to pay or the next shiny wallet application. This is a conversation about power because whoever controls payments controls the customer relationship, the data exhaust of everyday life, and ultimately trust in the economy itself. So in 2026, payments won't feel like transactions. They'll feel more like permissions, invisible, embedded, automated, and that raises serious questions most business and frankly most consumers aren't ready to ask. Meaning, who decides when a transaction is allowed? Who owns the identity behind the payment? And what happens when speed beats understanding? This isn't just fintech, it's in healthcare, it's retail, it's mobility, it's government, and it is life. And that's why this conversation matters. So I want to bring Chris to the stage, and we're going to talk about consumer payments today. How are you doing today, Chris?
Well, I'll tell you, Grant, it's amazing to be here with you today. And that opening was just really very broadly spaced about what really is going on in consumer payments, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think people really realize that, the control behind the scenes is what's so important, right? And when I look at consumer payments going forward, right, I right away think of what I call the four eyes,
Uh-huh.
right? And the four eyes, and that's not my eyes, not wearing a pair of glasses, but it's the words that begin with I, right? It's instant. Payments are going to be 24/7, 365, right? It's invisible. Invisible. So you have security in what you're doing, you have security in your profile and who you are. You have that invisibility behind. They will be intelligent, and that'll be a
Hmm.
lot of AI driven. And the last I is integrated. So they'll be integrated seamlessly. And it's like I had an old boss years ago. He used to always like to use the saying that no one wants to see how the sausage is made, right?
That's what's important. What you're talking about, and I like how you framed it with the four eyes because it helps our audience to kind of lean in right now. What's really important, and I think, and I want you to help us answer this as you look at the framework, or I would say the framework, just the horizon of 2026 as it comes online. What is the most misunderstood shift in consumer payments right now, in your opinion?
Well, Grant, for me, that's kind of an easy one. I don't think people really realize and understand how much AI is going to affect consumer payments, consumers' decisions, consumers' choices, consumers' information. And it's going to be done very seamlessly. And what a lot of people don't realize, Grant, is a lot of this AI has been already influencing what people do, how they do it, what they buy, how they buy.
At, now, see, now you got to help me unpack some of that.
Yeah,
Like
a lot.
how is AI? Because when people really think about AI, they think generative AI. Obviously, the chat bots and things like that. They see some video creation. They see some, photos and photography and imagery and things like that. Oh wow, I can really create like that. But when you're talking about AI in the back end of consumer payments, are you talking about automations and intelligence in the fabric that the most consumers don't know what's happening in the background that really determines a lot of outcomes?
Well, I would say, most don't know, most don't need to know, most don't want to know. Okay. So
Okay.
that pretty well sums it up. But, there's really two sides to it. It's what happens behind the scenes that AI will facilitate. So, what I mean is AI can look for you and find what is the best method of payment? What is the fastest method of payment? What is the method of payment that possibly gets you rewards and points? What's the method of payment that can get you a better lending position? The buy now, pay later. People, I don't think really understand how much it's being worked into your buying and your payment decisions. Almost everything that I see now, and probably you see the same, when you go to buy something, you always get this option, and there's a few companies that offer it
Yeah.
that says, yeah, if you want to do 4 payments, click here, right? This is buy now, pay later, BNPL, as we say in the industry, right? And you know, that's AI driven, right? Now on the front side, what consumers have already experienced, and we've used this example before of Amazon, where, you know, if you go to buy a shirt, it will show you the, or in my case, the ties. Other people, it might be the pants that match it based on historical performance, based on looking at your, but that's gone much deeper now. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And now it can actually the AI can go and it can look at your personal preference in particular, not just what everyone does, right? So the Amazon model has always been, well, when somebody buys this shirt, the majority of people buy those pants to go with it.
You're right. Right.
Here we're going to get much more personalized, where I buy this shirt and based on my browsing history, not even what I buy, my browsing history, based on what I have bought in the past, based on other influences that AI pulls from my particular person,
Yeah.
it now can recommend things that are much more personally driven.
I understand that completely because you see that a lot when it comes to when you're browsing and they always say, you know, you want to accept these cookies or you don't accept the cookies. A lot of people now have like, you know, I'm just accepting these cookies. Well, they don't understand what cookies are because that actually means they can track you. So they're tracking things that you're doing. And because they're tracking you, not to say there's always malicious or things like that, they try to present to you the things that you truly like. Now, to your point, that is what AI is doing. Now with the human factors, they're like, hey, I can actually make more money if I present you like it's $100 item. I can say, you know what? I'll break that down to 4 payments of $25, but you're gonna have some interest on top of that. Yeah, you can do that, pay that quite 100. But now, if you pay the 4 payments over time, usually you end up paying, I don't know, 110, 112. It's more. So they like that. So wow, I can really double down with that because I have credit in the background. I can float that 100. I don't need the 100 today. I'd rather have it over time, but I can get more money over time. So they do this. Consumer payments, to your point, I just came back from the Virgin Islands, right? And I remember when I booked it, the airline ticket, when I was like getting the car rental, I was doing, and I think the at one of the apps was Affirm. Affirm said, you know what? You don't got to pay all that stuff right now, Grant. You can pay this over time. Of course, they don't tell you about the 30 some odd percent interest rate they're going to tack on top of it. But for some people, I think like American Express, it might make sense. You know what? I don't have to pay this all right now. I'll pay it in a month or something like that. I may pay a little bit of that interest because it just makes more sense to me because of the time value of money. And those are the things I think people really need to understand. It's not a bad thing. You just need to be aware of it and how you're going to utilize it. But that AI fabric in the background, wow, you know, you got to be aware of those things, right?
So Grant, you see, this is one, and as a banker, this is one of the things that really bothers me, right? Because you know the old saying that we have as bankers is, I collect interest, I don't pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and like me personally, I have no credit cards.
Yeah.
I have my debit card, and I have a couple of accounts with the debit cards, and that's what it is. So when they make it so easy for people to buy something that they probably shouldn't buy, because if you can't afford it, you shouldn't buy it, right? But they make it so easy, people do not care about that interest. It's like the payday loans, right?
Yes.
I'm going to get my money sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I got to give away some of it, I want it sooner. You know, they're not looking at that, right? It's the same thing we talk about with car loans. No one looks at the interest or how long the term is. They just look at how much the monthly payment is. So it really, I hate to say it, fits well with today's consumers. Okay.
Well, yeah, if you're not at, you know, you really do need to watch your money. It's so important. And to your cash is still king, right? So if you can pay with money, it's the best. And I like that analogy. I mean, the reality, what you just said, you know, I don't pay interest, I collect interest. And we got to start thinking about how we flip the script between, what is it? And I like the term debt card. I don't have a debt card, is what you said. I don't have a credit card. Credit card is, it's a debt card. It's your ability to pay over time at a price. And sometimes that makes sense. Companies do it all the time. Sometimes it doesn't make sense because you got to you're kind of rolling the dice that you're going to have this money later in time. But if you let it accumulate, it can get way out of hand. It can just, be explosive. And you hear about that all the time on consumer debt. So let's talk about what we talked about a little bit earlier on the AI. It's about, to me, it's an evolution. It's a re-architecting of the consumer experience, around redefining what the destination and the rails kind of look like and what the outcome that you're doing. Because to your point, this is everywhere now. You go to Amazon, you go anywhere else, and it gives you that choice, especially e-commerce, that you can pay over time. And that can be problematic. We need to be aware of that. That's the danger in it, right? But let's flip that script around that are we really working with something new or something old, or how is this going to go forward, historically? Do you think in 2026 as a architecture and a platform, is that going to change, or is it going to be a pushback?
Well, I think there is a re-architecting going on, and I think that is the infrastructure, right? So let me give you a quick example. The airlines, for a number of years, have used the AI to look at seat loads and what the price of that seat should be, and if there's more demand for it, then the price should go up. And you can go and look for the same flight. If you look at the same flight for 3 days in a row, you could see different prices for
Sure.
that same seat, right? Now, this is going to move into consumer buying, right? And what I mean by that is the stores, the companies, the factories themselves are using these technologies now. So you're going to have in the future, when a shirt is bought very quickly, 100 shirts are bought the first day online, right? You might see that the price goes up the next day,
Mm-hmm.
right? But for sure, what you will not see is that they'll put a sale on that item.
Yeah, of course, of course, of
Right.
course.
So this whole infrastructure in the background is what's really going to change. And just like I said with the four eyes, right? So the change in the background now is to instant payments, right?
Mhm.
Or payments, settlements in a very quick time, and to be able to make that available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, right? Biometrics and what we call invisible authentication, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is also, so what that is about is we're going to shift from what you have, which is your card, right, to what you know, which
Mm-hmm.
is your PIN,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's going to shift to who you are. And we're already seeing it, where we're talking facial recognition, fingerprint sensors, biometrics based on behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
AI can do all this. So, for instance, you're going to buy on your phone, right? And
Yeah.
just the way you hold your phone, the way it's moved, you pretty much, people do the similar thing over and over again, and AI is going to be able to do that and use that as a point of verification that you are you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is a real structural change in how
I,
these
I
things.
think what you're talking about, and I've seen it because, like I said, I just came back from the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's 2,500 miles away from my home base here in Omaha, Nebraska. And I remember telling, I think I told my Chase people, "Hey, I'm going to be going to the Virgin Islands. I want to make sure, you don't think my card has been compromised." And he said, "You don't really need to do that anymore." And I'm like,
Right,
"What?"
right.
I'm like, "Really?" He said, "We can authenticate you. We know it is you." I'm like, "Wow!" So there's a lot of nuances in the background that we just don't understand. A lot of that trust is all we've already given away, that they can verify yourself in a number of different ways that they couldn't do before because of this AI architecture, this artificial intelligence that actually creates that trust layer is very important. We're going to go for a break and we're going to come back around this subject because I think it's so important. So stick with us.
Follow the Brand TV broadcast host, Grant McGaugh, as he visits with top executives and entrepreneurs to find out their secrets of success with their personal brand. Follow the Brand TV broadcast host as he focuses on brand development to build better relationships, bring value to your business, relationships, and career. You will enjoy listening to each episode that is tailored to speak to you directly. If you're looking for this type of clarity in terms of building your brand, you have tuned into the right station. Each episode will help you to shape a conversation in the 5-star BDM network of 20,000 professionals and become a springboard for your corporate engagement and business opportunities. Each guest will frame their story in the areas of personal branding, business development, career development, financial empowerment, and technology innovation. Grant McGaugh explains why he is the CEO and owner of his own professional career. Grant is an accomplished business leader and entrepreneur who wants to give back to individuals to grow their personal brand strategy. Tune in as he weaves his story about new possibilities, while to you exceed expectations. If you love storytelling, this show will make for fun.
All right, everybody. We were just getting into what I call the trust discussion around how these, consumer payments they run on a trust fabric that's very robust now. And I think we're headed toward a world where compliance is real time, is automated, and mostly invisible until it fails. So I want Chris to kind of weigh in on this when it fails and there's fraud and there's risk. What's happening, do you think, in that fabric when it doesn't work?
Well, Grant, of course, that's always a big concern. It's a big concern to the consumer, to the merchant, and it's a big concern to the bank or the credit card that's involved, right? And it has to do with a number of different things. Number one that you mentioned is trust, right? So it's really important that people trust their bank. Banks are not built on money. It's not about the gold in the vault, right? It's about the trust for what they do, right? And when you talk to CEOs of the bank, right, their biggest worry is reputational risk. Because if they lose the trust, the bank is lost.
Yes.
Right? So that's it becomes a really important thing, as you just mentioned, right? But here's the thing. AI is going to really help in a lot of those things, right? So it's going to be able to allow the AI models to be able to look at thousands of data points, right?
Mhm.
Device, location, purchase pattern, timing, and do that in milliseconds to distinguish legitimate transactions from fraud with a greater accuracy than the old rules-based system. And what the
Mhm.
rules-based system means is people put into their system a number of things. If it's in this country, this. If it's this amount, that. Right? All these kind of
Yeah.
rules that base it. AI doesn't need rules. Okay?
Mhm.
Some people think that's something to worry about. Me personally, I don't. But that's really at the center of that whole thing. So, Grant, just to get off the topic a little bit,
Yeah.
this past week, I had something that just struck me really quick. And it was, I saw something about the highest grossing actors.
Actors.
Right,
Okay.
right. So, who are the highest grossing actors in total, in numbers of total box office, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not what they make, but what they produce. And who would you guess is number one?
An actor, I'm thinking Morgan Freeman.
Number five on the list.
Number 5. Okay, I'm on the board.
You're on the board. Number five on the list. And you were very close because Samuel L. Jackson.
Wow. Sam, maybe because of the credit card commercial. He's
Yeah, but no, this is really based on films, not the commercials.
right, right,
I mean,
right.
I'm sure with the commercials it would push him even further up. But he's been responsible or involved with box office movies that have produced almost $17 billion.
Wow. That's a stat.
Yeah. So I'll just run to you the next quick. Number 2 is Harrison Ford. Number 3, Robert Downey Jr. Number 4, Tom Hanks. Now I look at that and I say to myself, but where's Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Where's Dwayne Johnson? Right? I mean, so can you imagine what's going on there? So the actress is a little bit, I don't know, in some ways easier. Scarlett Johansson is number 1. Emma Watson because of Harry Potter is number 2. Zoe Saldana is an interesting one because in many movies she's not the main star of the movie,
Yeah.
right? And she's been involved with $9 billion worth of a box office, right? So I would say that she's got a very good agent who just gets her into the right thing. Maybe not the right role,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
She's in
the money. She's in the money.
but she's in the money. Then it's Cameron Diaz and Jennifer Lawrence. Now, I went one step further, Grant, just to finish this up really quickly. And I said, okay, if these are the actors and actresses that produce the most amount of box office income, who's really behind that? And who's really behind that are the producers.
Yeah.
So the number one producer who's responsible for over $32 billion of box office is a guy named Kevin Feige. And I had to look him up.
Yeah.
He's the head of Marvel Studios.
Marvel. Oh, that makes sense.
So you think about all the big, Avengers and all the Iron Man and all the.
Oh man, classics.
Okay, so these are single title but multiple movies. They're right. Then there's a woman named Kathleen Kennedy, and she was the executive producer for a lot of the Star Wars stuff. So that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But number 3 is who I would have thought was number 1, which is Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Well, he's been around for years. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a legacy.
But he's only produced 11 billion.
That's it. He's got to get on his. You got to put in some more work.
Anyway, not to get off the top, but I thought that was really interesting, and it's something that really tells you how diverse the audiences can be.
If you don't mind, I want to lean into that a little bit because we're talking about box office movies. Think about the consumer behavior around the movie industry itself. Because before you had to go to a theater really to see the big screen. They've got it now to where And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, depends on how Hollywood looks at it. Like, you know what? Why do I need to go see the premiere the first day? I'll wait 30 days and check it out on Netflix or whatnot. I'll put in my consumer payment process, right? Whether it's a monthly recurring fee that I have on Netflix, or I might have to go ahead and get that movie for $19, as opposed to going to the movie house and spending an exorbitant amount of money. And I think it's $20 for popcorn now or something like that. And I can just have, a nice curated experience. Now, people that love date night, maybe they don't want that. However, it's a choice that you can make today because the consumer behavior is changing.
Well, Grant, I think you're spot on with a lot of that. And I think that, the theaters still have a place. And there's still going to be people who want to see that movie when it first comes out. And I guess a lot of that is to make sure they tell their friends they saw it, right? And then you have, as you said, date night. But, for any couple, I mean, even an older couple who want to get it out of the house, leave the children behind, a movie is a very simple choice. They're usually movie theaters locally. And yes, do you pay more for popcorn? Yeah, but you don't have to make it. I don't know. So I think you're exactly right. But it's the consumer behavior that's involved there. And I think one of the things the movies also do, maybe not in all cases, but most, is they don't allow, like Netflix, to get the movie day one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not day one.
Right? So they have a little bit of spread there. But you got to keep in mind that, between being the movies themselves, being able to sell out the theaters, being able to sell out to Netflix, being able to sell out to the airlines. Yeah. Don't minimize how much money is involved with just getting your movie on an airline.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that. I was so impressed. I like, when I get on a plane, I was going to be on a long flight and I see the selection, they got the new movies out. I said, wow, that just came out. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. They had to, American Airline or whoever it may be, had to pay for that so I can enjoy that movie while I'm in the air. Well, that is a good, and I'm sure it's built into the price of my ticket, but it's nice to have that convenience.
Well, Grant, it's also interesting. Remember earlier last year, we had talked about the deal that Delta did.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to roll out this year, so you'll be able to bet on sports events in the air.
Wow. Again, going back to consumer payments, they've made it so easy to do professional betting or whatever you want to call that. You can do it in so many different ways, good or bad. But if you have a vice, that could be bad. But you have access to betting that you don't necessarily have to be in a casino now to do casino style betting, especially on professional sports. All because, and I think it's because of the platform of consumer payment models and the trust factor, because you've got to really people try to game the system all the time. So you've got a really good system to know that these bets are real and they are authentic, and they can collect, obviously, and vice versa. So that's got to be interesting what that platform really looks like. From I think of DraftKings and some others and they're promoting heavily on these. Doing these professional sporting events. Sure. I mean, it's huge. But at the same time, I want to say this one point, because now we just had this huge problem that happened, I think, in the NBA, where because of how they bet and so many different things that they can bet on, it's like, hey, are these players now influenced by this? He's like, you know what? There's a bet out there that I won't score 20 points tonight. Well, I'll make sure I score 19 or I score 21, wherever it may be. So, there's some ambiguity there. I don't know how that all is going to play out, but they've made it so where these little, it's not just who wins the game, it's just all these other side bets that are taking place.
Well, Grant, when something new comes out, sometimes there's a couple of unexpected consequences. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in this case, when you talk about what's going on in the NBA, but they've moved to close those loopholes, let's say, or those gaps, right? And we'll see that with everything. But the interesting thing is, from my view, it's betting online has been around for a long time. Not legally in the U.S. Now it's legal in the U.S., right? But if you really wanted to 10 years ago, you could find some offshore, typically Caribbean islands location that you could do sports betting at. But what's changed is one, legality. Number 2, ease of use.
Ease of use.
And
Yes.
number 3, seamless process. Right?
That is all important.
Yeah, so these are things, and it influences everything in consumer buying now. And we sorry to say, I got to come back to AI again, because AI also can influence the sports betting market very well, because historical data, it can pull up all kinds of like crazy things, like who hasn't scored in the first quarter for the last this amount. So there's a bet you could probably make there, right? But when you even talk about consumer buying for clothes, right, or for your home, now, for instance, the shirt you're wearing, Grant, you can take a picture of that shirt and ask, what is the pants that would match with this shirt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? In your home, you can take a picture of your living room and say, what other living room set would look good in this home? Right? Right? The color paint on your walls. You can go ahead and change the color paint in your house in every room as much as you want, virtually, of course.
Virtually, and see what it would look like and make a decision. That's where AI is becoming a real game changer in our everyday lives that we couldn't do before, that you can now simulate so many different things before you make them actually, real in your world. We're going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back. You're going to talk about some things that you brought up, a brand that I love, Legos. We're going to talk about Legos, folks.
Yeah, let's do some Legos.
Imagine, if you will, a single point of connection that puts at your fingertips all of the things that we do in our daily lives with ease of access and convenience. Whether in your personal life, for work, travel, and entertainment with family, friends, and in your work life. The new OneConnect app is all you need to make your life more manageable and efficient in maximizing the best use of your time. The OneConnect app is your new connection in a world of busy people with lots to do and not enough time to get things done. OneConnect app was created with you in mind and is all you need. Download OneConnect app now. Also visit us at www.oneconnectapp.com.
The difference between influence and legacy, it's the platform that carries your voice. You're not visible because you lack talent. You're visible because your brand doesn't speak. I've built 5-star BD&M to change that. Most leaders have the expertise, but not the presence, the vision, but not the vehicle. Across 3 cities, one brand is helping leaders rise above the noise. Here in the heart of Omaha, strategy isn't left to chance. It's engineered with precision. In Omaha, we engineered your Zachner brand, AI-powered, data-driven, precise. TISA went from a local nonprofit to a national speaker in 90 days. We don't guess your brand strategy, we build it. On the shores of St. Croix, your brand takes on depth and meaning, shaped through curated retreats and legacy experiences. In St. Croix, strategy becomes soul. Our retreats don't just refine your message, they rediscover your mission. One founder rewrote his entire company story here. Funding followed 30 days later. This is where leaders remember who they were meant to be. In vibrant Miami, momentum meets amplification, transforming your voice into a movement. In Miami, your brand becomes a movement. Business development accelerators, audience building. Joy came with an old website and an outdated company name, but she left with 5,000 followers and a waiting list. This is where you scale with soul. 3 cities, 1 mission. Your legacy ignited. It started with a thread. Let's pull it together. Stop blending and start leading. 5-Star BDM, where legacy is engineered, embodied, and ignited. Visit 5starbdm.com and book your brand audit today.
All right, we are back. I know everybody can't wait. Say I started it off with Legos on the last segment. It's Legos. Chris came to me and said, "Look, Legos is making a big move. You need to understand this story." So, Chris, you gotta get us off the ledge here. What you got on Legos?
Well, I think it's a name, first of all, Lego, that almost everybody knows, but what they don't realize, it's an $8 billion entertainment and lifestyle enterprise. And let's go back through some of the history real quick. 1932 is when a guy in Denmark started the Lego company, right? And he was a furniture builder, a carpenter, and he started making wooden toys. But it wasn't so successful. Everything changed in 1958 when he perfected the interlocking brick, right?
Uh-huh.
And what's interesting is if you bought Legos in 1958, they would still fit the Legos you buy today at the store.
No way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's that clutch power brick, right? Is like compatible forever. And that's part of their strength, right? But in 1999, things really changed because they made the move to start licensing other products, other important things. I'll give you some examples, right? The Millennium Falcon. Right,
Yeah.
from Star Wars, everyone knows the Millennium Falcon, right? It's one of their flagship products. It's their most expensive product. It costs $850 each,
Wow.
right? They did Rivendell, which is from Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
right? They did Gringotts Bank, which is Harry Potter. They did Avengers Tower, which is Marvel, right? And actually, out of all their top 10 of these kind of things, there's only one which is not based on some movie, some book, some popular thing, right? Is in the top 10 for Legos is what they call the Pretty Pink Flower Bouquet, which is very popular amongst adult builders and collectors. Right, so that's kind of very interesting. Now, since their beginning, they've produced something like 400 billion connecting bricks, right?
That's a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So I will now give Lego some credit. Is they had a Build for Tomorrow initiative, right? And by the end of 2024, everything was built out of 50% sustainable materials, and they want to be 100% sustainable by 2030. So that's all great. That's all great stuff to hear. But what was just unveiled by Lego is their new Smart Play platform with sensors embedded in their what they call smart bricks now.
Yeah.
And this will start hitting the market in the next few months, right? So what this does, which this is what really caught me, Grant, I got to tell you, it's taken an analog toy, right? Very simple little plastic, and now it's made it smarter, not digital, okay? Right? It's physical, right? So the brick doesn't change, but what the brick can do changes, right? And what I like about this is one of the things that, we as parents and are concerned about our youngsters today is they don't get off their phone, their iPad, or their computer. But here we have this approach from Lego, which has taken a physical toy and made it interactive, right? So it can interact with lights, with sound, with physical play, without screens. Okay,
Oh,
right? This you now can scan over a pile of Legos, and it will tell and give you the instructions of what you can build from that pile of Legos. And it might be 5 or 6 different things you could build. I don't know, a dinosaur, a car, a house, right? So-
we used to call it, well, we still do, but in the going back to when the metaverse is really hot, call it augmented reality.
Right.
So now you're layering in something that's actually real, but giving it intelligence built into it, so it makes it more interactive. I think that's a very smart move. Especially, I want to try one of these out with my 4-year-old granddaughter to see if she really will play with that.
Well, and Grant, the smartest move that Lego did wasn't designing and producing the brick.
Yeah.
The smartest move was making sure the brick never changed.
Yeah, really. Interactive. And
I mean, unless you think about it, you wouldn't really realize that. But it's really interesting. Since 1958, any Lego you have will work with any other Lego you have.
that right there is a remarkable feat, considering how things change and move over time. That's something that's still been in place for 60, 70 years. That's remarkable.
So, Grant, let me ask you.
Yeah.
From a branding perspective, just that one thing, how important do you think that is from a branding perspective?
Well, first, it's very hard to do. Consistency and persistence on something that's still relevant today that's remarkable. Think cassette player. Is that still relevant? Music still is. Cassette player, 8-track player. Is it? No. So you can keep going on and on how so many different things don't, they exist for, we call that transformative art, for only so long before they're obsolete. You're talking about Legos are still not obsolete. I mean, that's 3-4 generations of Lego. A lot of people can still operate in Lego. There's so many things you can do. I think it really it bodes well with the imaginative factor. And I was just talking about it's a very real thing. I would like my 4-year-old granddaughter to really interact with something like that, but still up to date, meaning it still can interact with devices. It's still, and that's something that's so old school. It's something that's very present. That's a remarkable feat when it comes to branding and the consumer model, right? So let's talk about the consumer, because I think in going back to what we started out with, consumer payments.
Right.
This is important, and I want to bring this up because I know in 2026 payments are very invisible, but behavior is not invisible, and it changes how people feel about money. And money used to be very tangible, but now it's very digital. It's ambient. That changes psychology, and it's not always healthy because you're not removing the friction of getting things. Before, maybe you had to go drive to the bank to go get cash in order to go buy something. And during that whole time, you might change, your mind about something, or bring more awareness about something. But if it's instantaneous, where does the responsibility live? What do you think about that?
Well, Grant, I got to tell you that in my view, the responsibility is being taken more and more out of the consumer's hands, right? So I'll give you a quick example, right? We have frictionless and invisible checkout, right? And what does that really mean? Well, frictionless, as you said, is not having to go to the bank physically, right? Frictionless. It's also, with AI, you can do auto-filling of forms and auto-filling of what things that you want very accurately. And this makes it very less frictionless. And it's really what they call invisible checkout, right? So what does that mean? That means if I want to go in and buy a shirt, right? and now it comes time to pay, the AI will automatically fill out my ship to address, the credit card that I want to use, all this information, and all I got to do is hit the pay button.
Yeah.
And actually, you could actually set up AI to be able to do that, including hit the pay button. Okay, if I want this shirt, I want this kind of price, and it looks around and finds it. You can even include your rewards program, and it looks around and finds it, and when it finds it, it just buys it for you and has it shipped to you.
This is important to understand because, to your point, I was shopping online, especially during the Christmas holiday season and all like that, and like you said, the Google Pay would come up, and sometimes like, oh, I wonder what's in my Google Pay, not realizing again it's tied back to a debit card or something to that effect, but it had an old address. It had an old address with it. So when I did it, it automatically filled everything out, but then now it's shipping to an old address. I'm like, oh wow, now I got to go back into it. And what was once frictionless, now it took me some time to then go back, find where I could change the address. In this particular case, I had to then contact the retailer like, hey, don't ship it there, you got to ship it here. They did catch it, but what my point is, if it's over automated, remember, machines are not conscious. They just take whatever's there and run with it. It may not be accurate, so it'll amplify inaccuracies. You've got to be very careful. And to your point, when you get used to that instantaneous gratification, which I know retailers like, that's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to spend your money and buy my stuff. That's the point, So I've made it very, very easy, right? But we've got to be conscious as a consumer. This is what's happening, and the dopamine, the psychology around, how this is happening. We have to understand how this, the payments are a marketing tool, right? It's very much so. Obviously, they've got the security down packed, but the customer experience and the governance all at once. And so my question to you is, Chris, because you've been on all sides of the ball here, what do we do in this case that they made it so easy to buy things?
Well, Grant, first, I just want to take a step back because you talked about the holiday season and buying for Christmas and all. And I just want to give you a little bit of information on AI. Drove 20% of all the global orders for the holiday season last year, wow, generating $260 billion in revenue through personal recommendations, right? Wow. And AI referred shoppers converted, which means they purchased 9 times more often than social media referrals during the holiday season.
Ooh, say that again. Back that up. Say that again.
AI referred shoppers purchased 9 times more often than social media referrals during the holiday season. It's a significant difference.
Significant. So let's go along that line. So now we have a new player in the world. It's AI, artificial intelligence. It's driving revenue. It's driving opportunity, and it's driving intelligence. We got to get on top of this, because if we don't, we're going to be left behind and not realizing, what's happening in the background, and understanding how we're interconnected with all these things. So if we're on the playing field, let's say our monopoly board, right? Now everything's interconnected, and it's making decisions. Like you say, hey, you know what? I don't want to buy Park Place. Well, I think I recommend that you do. So we got to start. We've got to, have those stop gaps in the governance. So we start talking trust layer. We start talking governance. This is changing the world. So going back to what we started out with, consumer payments in 2026, how this is changing the game, and that as the consumer, either we can be the effect of all this, or we can be the cause of all this. What's the causation? How do we get control of our AI behavior? Let's say now you're saying social media is being outpaced already by AI. Like, well, I think it's time for us to really get trained up on this, to get a better understanding on this. You can't just sleep on this and expect people to educate you. You got to educate yourself around this. So the consumer payment model, meaning it's in your wallet. What's in your wallet, Chris? Like it's in your wallet 24/7, right?
Yep. Well, Grant, look, the way we shop, the way we compare products, the way we buy today is being rewritten.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the companies that have that infrastructure are the ones that are doing this rewriting, right? And the fight is going to be over who owns the buy button. Right?
Wow.
That's where the fight is going to be. And it's going to be, big players behind it. Visa, MasterCard, just right off the bat, to me, are going to be companies that want to look to control your buy button.
Man, what you just said, when we think about Elon Musk, all right, people like Elon Musk, whether you like him, you don't like him, he's been doing that with PayPal, right, for a long time. And he saw it, he's like, you know what if I give them one payment model that actually go one to many, right? So whether it's tied to your credit card, it's tied to a debit card, it's tied to your bank, he's giving you all these options. And then because it has a security and trust layer, hey, I just pay by PayPal. No one's going to hack my PayPal to get to my credit card. It was very ingenious for him to do that. Now, obviously, he's one of the richest men in the world. So we got to look at these consumer payment models and not sleep on this because it's making people trillionaires.
Well, Grant, first I'll tell you one thing. Elon Musk sold out PayPal years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he did lay down the framework with his partners in exactly what we're seeing today. And what's really happening is, you have these, let's call them payment companies like PayPal, like Apple Pay, like Block, which used to be called Square, like Shopify, right? And then you have the banks. So what's happening is these payment companies are looking to offer banking services while the banks are looking to build commerce platforms.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yep. So that's where we're going to see like a lot of change in these kind of things, because again, it all comes down to who really controls the platform, who really controls, because look, most people, they not only don't really want to know what's going on behind the scenes, they may not very well have the expertise to understand what's going on behind the scenes, but most people, they want their decisions to be easy. They want to be told what to do. So, AI becomes perfect for today's generation of people. Now, let me also point out something else. I just talked about Apple Pay, right?
Yep.
So when Apple Pay came out, the bank behind it was Goldman Sachs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Goldman Sachs is not known in the consumer banking world, right? Right. They're a stock company, right? They're known for being involved in the Wall Street and the market and all this, but they have big banking services. So Goldman Sachs decided to get into consumer finance. They would be the ones underlining Apple Pay and the Apple Card, right?
Yeah.
It didn't work out for them. It didn't, right? And one of the important changes, which is again behind the scenes and things people can't really see it, is a power move from JP Morgan Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They are now the new issuer of the Apple Card and the underlining bank for Apple Pay.
Really?
Goldman Sachs got out of it after losing $1 billion.
Okay.
Okay. Now, but what does this really mean? Well, for JP Morgan, like I said, it's a power move. It's all about how they can get a deeper grip,
mm-hmm.
not so much in the credit card market, but to get access to a loyal consumer ecosystem. It's the client base. Okay. Apple's has one of the most loyal consumer ecosystems out of any product, any company in the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there are people that go to bed at night with their Apple phone, right? So getting access to that loyalty, getting access to their behavioral data, the embedded surface across phones, watches, and wallets, this is a power move from JP Morgan Chase so that they can have an into the future where people will be able to grow, and they'll look to grow in the bank's ecosphere, right? And for Apple, it's a reset. They went from a struggling partner to a bank with a big balance sheet, with a risk infrastructure, with scale to actually support mass marketing, lending, savings, payments, the whole thing. For MasterCard, it all stays the same. There's still the underlining payment rails for it. So this is not about a change in credit card, okay? But it's about JP Morgan Chase having a new reach into people for their financial products. It's about control of financial distribution. It's not the card, right?
That's
It's really
interesting. You always got to understand the strategy and the leverage and what's important. Consumer behavior is very, very powerful, and understanding that. And obviously, they're playing Monopoly. They want to control it. Hey, you know what? We got a curated audience here. We know where they're at. We know what they do, and we need to offer them what they want. Now, I'll leave us with this, because everybody understands when people have a problem with alcohol. We call it alcoholism. People understand when people have a problem with gambling, and they have a problem. There's Gambling Anonymous. There's things like that. I think this is something we don't talk about enough. There are shopaholics out there, and we're feeding that with these easily consumer payments. People see these things and they're like, man, I have to push the button. I'm just keep pushing the button until, they got a bunch of stuff in their house. I've seen it, and stuff they don't use, but they really, they like the dopamine, the excitement of just acquiring something. And it's not around keeping it or utilizing it or maximizing it. It's just, and then it's on to the next. They give it away to somebody else because they're actually shopaholics. And the reason I bring this up, because this consumer payment model that we have, this trust leader, it's just right in front of you. And I think they're right in front of that world market and catering to these shopaholics. So you gotta be careful.
Look, Grant, one of the things for sure, it's definitely made it easier for them. It's definitely given them a much broader choice, much greater access to many more products than ever before. And yes, this absolutely, it's like, giving a drunk a bottle, right? He's going to drink it, all right? We don't have to worry about that at all, you know what I mean? But just to come back to JP Morgan and Apple for a second, especially JP Morgan, it's not, the win here is not building a better product, because they're not.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing that.
Yeah.
The win is securing distribution to customers that will grow over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such an important thing for many businesses to be able to look at, even for people in their individual lives to look at. What can you do that will grow over time? Because we're becoming, and you spoke to it, it's AI and a lot of the technology today is making it so easy for instant satisfaction, right? But here's a great example of building something that will grow over time. If we could take that into our personal lives, I think our lives would be better. That's
it. We got to become more profiteers as well. Let's profit, everyone to profit on this. Also, add some responsibility and some discipline in what we are endeavoring in. Let's not go in as consumers with blinders on, understanding what's on the other side of the ball and what's truly good and beneficial for you. A lot of these things are rarely remarkable. I am not a shopper per se, but it'd be nice when I just go in and it's like, wow, they're giving me everything I need. I don't have to spend time, looking for different things. Like it's right there. And sometimes it can be annoying too. You buy something and then for the next 3 weeks, they keep showing you the same thing. So you're like,
Grant, to that point, right? And I'm not really a shopper either. And when birthdays come up, when holidays come up, when Christmas comes up, there are always people that you're like, stuck. What do I get them? I have no idea, right? And of course, the fallback is gift cards, right? Send gift cards.
Yeah.
But really, now you can use AI, and you could put that person in to your AI and ask, what would be the 5 best gifts for that person.
Yeah, you
And
might
they
be
will look-
you
they
might be
will
the
look
best gift giver ever. Now we're at time now, so we got to go. Tune in next week as we continue along these lines around payments, so you can educate yourself and get better prepared for 2026. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the big picture. This is Grant
Thank you.
McGraw and Chris Principe. Bye-bye.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.